In the last couple of weeks, I've been mentioning an auction that's coming up on Cape Cod at Eldred's very soon on April 8th. And I wanted to sort of share it with everybody. It's a good looking sale. It's all China trade stuff, 150 lots made almost solely of 18th and early 19th century pieces. Some very good items in here. Some of the pieces have restorations and they're noted, but always, as always, you want to get a condition report. But this sort of comes on the heels of the sale of the China trade things that did so well up at Devon Moisen's sale just a couple of weeks ago. Now there's this one. And it's not a surprise. New England is full of these collections. There are a lot of these very fine China trade collections that were built up during starting back in the 1800s, obviously, but between the 70s and the 90s, Americana collectors, especially Americana collectors here in New England, bought a lot of Chinese export wares from some of the top dealers. And now these families, they're starting to get broken up. The people are passing away. The collections are being sold. People are downsizing. And this is what we're seeing. And we're seeing more and more of it. Doyle's in New York had a whole bunch of stuff that came out of a very good collection on Nantucket, as you remember. He's a Boston finance guy, and that owned that collection. And then there's this collection. And I don't know whose collection this is. Perhaps if you call Eldred's and call up Josh Eldred and ask him, he might tell you who owned it all. But it's a pretty good assortment of very fine looking things. And I just want to run through some of them to give you some idea. I'm on the Eldred's website, by the way. It's a very good website. It's very maneuverable and so forth. And this is just listed on the site. When you go there, it's listed as Spring Sale Session 1. That's all. It doesn't say Chinese export wares, doesn't say China trade. It's just Spring Sale Session 1. They should maybe put in there Chinese export porcelain or something, but they didn't. Any rate, let's get started here. Okay, first thing you have is this very nice hunt bowl. Chinese export hunt bowl. This is one of these iconic bowls that you see around from time to time. Very heavily collected during the 80s and 90s. This one looks to be in quite good shape. How big is it? It's 11 and a half inches in diameter. A lot of them are 11 and a half inches. Sometimes they got as big as 16 and 18 inches, but those are extremely rare and they sell for huge amounts of money. But this is a good looking bowl. And as I said, it's got the English hunt scene on it based on an English print that the Chinese adopted and did quite a few of them over the years, but not as many as they did of the other ones, but they did quite a few hunt bowls. This was a good one, 11 and a half inches. It's got some professional restoration to it, so you may want to get some specifics. It may just be a hairline that they covered up or a chip or something. Don't let the word restoration necessarily scare you off of things. Sometimes restoration is extremely small, but the auction house is being honest and mentioning it because they don't want somebody complaining later. At any rate, this one is estimated at $2,000 to $3,000, has a $1,000 opening bid. It's got a bid on it already. I'm not surprised. Should do pretty well. And then there's this Chinese export charger. Now, this one they have dated as late 18th or early 19th century. And I think this is an early 18th century plate from what I'm seeing. And this is a large one. It's 16 inches in diameter. It's a very attractive pattern, but the color of the cobalt, the iron red, this looks like early Chinese Amari from the early 18th century to me. It's very, very nice. The back of it looks good. The foot rim looks good. All of it looks fine. There's that nice even ivory color you see on early 18th century Kangxi wares, and the sprigs of flowers on the bottom of the rim. This pattern was not used much. This pattern up here wasn't used much in the late 18th century, but it was used a great deal in the early 18th century during the Kangxi era. It's estimated at $1,000 to $1,500, which I think is sort of a no-brainer. Get a condition report, but it's a nice-looking porcelain. And then over to this. This is a rare bird. This is a yellow ground enamel export cup, and it's based on I think it's Meissen. It's based on a European pattern that was done with the yellow, but it's very attractive. And then it has all these little cartouches in here of landscape scenes with figures and animals and so forth on it. It's got a monogram in the matching cup. There's the back of it, and This one was bought from Polly Latham in Boston. She's one of the best dealers on the Eastern United. Well, she's one of the best dealers in America for China trade. I've known Polly for a long time. Full disclosure, she's a very nice person. She had an excellent shop in Boston. She's still there, but she started out on Charles. Well, she started out as a sort of dealing from her home many years ago, and then she did so well. She opened a shop on Charles Street in Boston, which she had for a number of years, and now she's moved to a bigger facility just down the road from there. But anyway, she gets good things. That's all. So if you see Polly's sticker on things, you're looking at something that's probably quite good. So there you go. Anyway, this one the saucer measures 5.5 inches in diameter. It's estimated at $400 to $600. And then you have this. Now, this is an interesting thing. They're calling it a buffet set. It's a sweetmeat set, but it's missing a couple of pieces, as many of you will recognize. It's missing 3 of the pieces. This should make a circle all the way around. It's a sweetmeat set, basically, and it's done sort of with a pseudo Rockefeller pattern on the border here. If you've seen Rockefeller pattern plates, if you look at the borders, this is how they did them. This is quite a rare thing. It's got a couple of, it looks like twin fish on the cover. Oh, it's a berry finial. I thought it was a couple of fish. Berry finial on the top, which is very typical. Nice little handles on it, some grisaille decoration and so forth. This is a nice set. It's not complete, but it's an 18th century set. It's beautifully done. They're saying 18th, early 19th century. It's an 18th century set, pretty clearly. $1,000 to $1,500. It's a very interesting thing. If you collect Rockefeller pattern porcelains, you might want to chase this down, because this style does not turn up very often. It's a pretty rare type. All right, and then over to this, there's a number of these side-handled chocolate pots on the sale from the 18th century. I think there's 3 or 4 of them in this auction. This is one of them. It's got this very nice pistol handle on it, beautiful spout, and it was done around 1780. They're calling it 19th century. It's not. This style comes from around the 1780s or so. It's older than they're dating it. That's all. No harm. They're a little off. But at any rate, this is a very good one. Estimated at $500 to $1,000. It's got a $250 opening bid. I don't know what the reserves are, but if there are reserves, you may be able to get some information from them about that when you talk to them. But again, very nice looking porcelain. And then over here, the candlesticks. Pair of candlesticks. These are quite good. They have just minor age lines. They measure 7.5 inches tall. They're 18th century, probably done again in the 1780s or so, made for the export market, based on silver and brass forms, obviously, that were shared with them. The Chinese would get often sometimes carved in wood models of things that the Westerners wanted them to make in porcelain, and they would use them as sort of guides on how to do things. And they didn't ship them a pair of very fine Georgian silver candlesticks to make into porcelain. They would just send them a representative carving copies. Same with gravy boats and other forms. Anyway, this was sometimes they would just use drawings too. They could use drawings. But this is a very nice looking pair of sticks, estimated at $500 to $1,000. $250 opening bid. They've already got a bid. They should bring $600 to $900 based on the recent market. The market for these used to be a pair of these. I remember back in the 80s and the 90s, a pair of these sticks would sell for $1,500 to $2,500 pretty comfortably every time they came up, because they were highly desirable for the American furniture collectors. Always wanted a pair of these Chinese export porcelain sticks to put on their tables. So they were fairly hotly pursued when they came up. But this is a nice pair. It's a good pair. The underglazed blue on them looks nice, and the enameling looks good. So there you go. Then you have these, a pair of export Tureens, late 18th century, more than likely. They're saying first half of the 19th. I don't think they are. I think they're a little older than that. And again, based on an English silver form, very elegant looking things. I love the handles on them, the way they sort of droop down, and the shaping of the pot is very, very good. Got those big berry finials up on top. They each measure 8.5 inches long, so they're not. No, these are sort of not miniature, but they're smaller. Nice gravy, nice. What are they calling them? Gravy boats, or no? They're gravy tureens. They're calling them. You could use them as tureens if they're not slotted. You could use them as little vegetable dishes. They're estimated at $400 to $600. That seems very reasonable. $200 opening bid. Again, wonderful. And you buy these so you can use them. Somebody said to me, "Can you use Chinese export wares?" We use them. I have some Chinese export bowls and serving bowls and things. And when we have guests for holidays, we use them. We serve the food in them. We're just careful with them. That's all. And the truth of the matter is that these Chinese export wares, if you go to a fancy retail store and look at brand new pieces that look like this, that are made by any number of good companies, they're more expensive than the originals in some cases. It's rather astounding. A pair of very fine tureens like this, modern in a store made by an important maker, can be $400, $500, $600 a piece. And you can get the originals for less much of the time these days. So it's a little bit crazy. But anyway, these are very, very nice. And keep that in mind when you buy China trade wares, use them. And then this very nice Chinese export tray that's reticulated. There's a reticulated edge going around the outside. Nice landscape scene framed. It's interesting how they do it. It's framed by the scene is framed by the reticulated edges around it, so it makes it very attractive. You can hang it on a wall. It's not terribly deep. It's probably 2 or 3 inches. It was sold by Lydia Willauer, one of the best dealers on Cape Cod and in the islands down in the southern part of Massachusetts. She sold great stuff. This is just an example of the kind of thing she did sell, and she probably sold this tray, in all honesty, probably for $6,000 or $8,000 originally. Did it say on the tag? And maybe I'm crazy, but see what the tag says. They've got the selling price covered. But I wouldn't have been surprised at all if it was $5,000 or $6,000 back in the day when they were selling these. It measures 13 3/4 inches long. It's very attractive. You want to take a look at it. It says it's got some restoration to the edges. They blacklighted it, but you can get more details. All right, and then there's another Chinese export tureen, 18th century, very nice. It's got this very proud finial sticking up on top. I like that. And nicely enameled, and it's not all underglazed blue. It's enameled with underglazed blue, and it is decorated with a fairly traditional Chinese scene, which is quite attractive. There it is. Here's the top of it. Wonderful underglazed blue decoration. Very strong colors. Here's the bottom with that unglazed dry patch in the center, which you often see on these. It measures 16 inches in length. So this is a pretty big tureen. It's a good sized soup tureen. 16 inches. And it's estimated at $1,000 to $1,500 as a $500 opening bid. Again, what a great tureen to use at a dinner party. All right, and then there's this, a fairly large, 17 1/4 inch long China trade carved wooden picture frame. If you've got something that would go in it, you're in luck. Here it is. You want to get the inside dimensions. If you've got something, if you have some artwork they've been waiting to put in an oval frame, you might want to look into that. Sometimes you could just put a mirror in it. They make wonderful mirrors, but it's beautifully carved. This is a late 19th century example, and it's estimated at $500 to $700 with a $250 starting price. It's a nice frame. It's a good frame. And then there's this. I thought this was great. I really like this. A Chinese export wooden pediment. And I don't know what this came off of. I'm going to bet it was made for some sort of a ship or a boat, judging by the style of it, or a pediment maybe on a marine cabinet or marine chest. And it's got the double happiness area at the bottom and so forth, but beautifully carved, wonderfully, wonderfully carved. And it's got a single star on it. I'm not sure what that means. It's not a CCP star, if anybody's wondering. This looks like it was probably made in the 1870s to 1890s, judging by the work. It measures 17 inches tall, 24 inches wide, so it's a pretty big piece of wood. And the estimate seems to be for nothing, $400 to $600. That's a wonderful carving for $400 to $600. I would expect it to go for over that. It's a nice China trade thing with some Chinese iconography on it. Again, very attractive. And then hopping over to this. Now, this is one of the most important lots in the sale. This is the DeWitt Clinton dinner service plates. Now, the picture here is a little bit misleading. It looks like there's 5 pieces in the lot. There aren't. There are 28 pieces in this lot. They've got a list of them over on the right-hand side, and that explains why the estimate is fairly strong. The estimate is 25 to 35,000 with a $12,000 opening bid. But there's 28 pieces of the DeWitt Clinton pattern in here. 5 small serving trays, 7 shallow soup bowls, 9 oval platters. Gravy boats, covered casserole dish, sauce tureens, a deep dish, and a covered dish. So it's quite a collection. And DeWitt Clinton, of course, was very famous. He was the fellow that it actually mentions it in the description. He had the Erie Canal made, among other things, and he was the governor in New York in the early 19th century. But this is one of these. This is one of the great iconographic China trade sets that was sent over that everybody was chasing in the 90s. I can tell you that. A DeWitt Clinton plate back then by itself would sell for several $1,000s without much trouble at all. 3,000 to 5,000 for one dish, maybe more, and that doesn't include platters. That's just for a dish. But it was a very, very popular pattern, beautifully done, wonderful landscape scene in the center of all of them, and it's monogrammed. So if you want historic porcelain, this is an opportunity to acquire 28 of some of the most desirable China tradewares that were ever produced. Right there. And then over to this. I just like this. I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. I just love this. It's a little porcelain China trade standish. It's got, I guess one of the pieces is restored on it somewhere. But this is a very rare thing. Standishes were not made in porcelain very often. This is it's conjoined with this honeycomb reticulated base. Very nice enameling on it. The colors are good. This is an 18th century standish. They're saying it's first half of the 19th century. I disagree. I think this was made probably around 1770, 1760, judging by the work and the patterns and so forth. In the shade of that pink right there, and just the way it's done, it looks like it's fairly early in the Qianlong period. The estimate is $500 to $1,000. It's already got a bid. It should do quite well. Because it's a very, very unusual form. Unusual forms in China trade tend to bring a lot of money. For example, there are, I think, 2 razor boxes in this sale. Now, the Chinese didn't use razors the way we use it, but they made them in rose mandarin and rose canton, and I believe there are 2 in this auction. There's some interesting stuff. And then over to this is this really nifty pomegranate teapot, 18th century, very unusual, gilded handles and spout. Nicely done, good colors. It's got some overlay work on it there, as you can see, with the vines and leaves and whatnot. Here you go. It's a heck of a good-looking piece of porcelain, very rare. Estimated at $500 to $1,000, $250 is the current bid. I expect this to bring. I would think this will bring $800, $900, maybe as much as $1,400. It's a pretty rare bird and very attractive. But if you collect teapots or you're familiar with China trade teapots, when was the last time you saw one in this form? And I'm going to suspect that most of you say, "Gee, I've never seen that form," because it's rare. That's all. And then over to this is very pretty famille rose and underglazed blue platter landscape scene. It's sort of the landscape scene here is sort of a stock scene. You see them fairly often with the maiden in the landscape with the balustrade and the big flowers coming up in front of her and the natural rocks and all this. But usually it's all in underglazed blue. This one is a mix of underglazed blue with enamels. It's a very nice combination. Extremely attractive, dating to the 1780s or 90s. Very, very pretty. Good sized plate, 16.5 inches in diameter. I don't see anything wrong with it. The estimate is $700 to $1,000. It's already got a bid at $350. It'll do. I think it'll do okay because it's the unusual coloration of it. And the maiden, the woman on the edge of the veranda is very nicely done, all in enamels. It's very attractive. And then over to this, there are several fans in the sale. There's also a solid ivory fan in the sale. And this is something I've noticed. There are a number of auction houses in the United States now offering ivory outright. And they're calling it ivory. I've seen a couple of them. And all they're saying is that you have to make your own arrangements to ship it because they can't ship it across state lines. So I think maybe there's been some sort of a clarification on how the regulations are being handled by the federal government regarding CITES permits and all that. Because before you couldn't even have a piece of ivory in a sale. Now apparently you can, as long as you don't offer to ship it across state lines, which then turns it into a federal problem. So it may be some of the states are allowing a little bit of it to happen. I'm not sure, but check it out. If you look around on here, you'll find some things. They're not listing them just as, for a long time, as everybody knows, they would list them as cow bone, or they would just say carved Chinese, blah, 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 whatever it is, and not give any mention as to the material from which it was made. Now they're actually coming right out and saying it ivory. And this one they didn't say ivory fans. Those are ivory. This is a very nice looking fan. And what's neat about this fan is that it's got the original box. This is the original fitted box. There it is. All right, and these came with them. Sometimes they have the label of the store in Hong Kong or in Canton that was sold them. Sometimes they have the name of the shop the sailors went in and out of to buy them. This one doesn't mention it anywhere, so I'm assuming it doesn't have it. But the box is very, very nicely done. The fan is nicely done. Now they've got it estimated at $2,000 to $3,000 because it's complete. It has ivory blades, and the panel painting is quite good on it. I think that may be a little bit aggressive as far as an estimate goes. I was thinking more in the $1,200 to $1,800 range for that, maybe. But we'll see. We'll see. You never know. You know, China trade collectors live all over Cape Cod. Maybe they don't want to pay for shipping. And then there's another piece of ivory. This is a very nice ivory basket, and they identified it as ivory. So here you go. And there it is, very nicely done. This is a beautiful swing-handled basket, all done in ivory, China trade, second half of the 19th century probably. It measures 6 3/4 inches in length and so forth. It's got some repairs to it here and there apparently, but overall it's a pretty great looking thing if you like ivory. The estimate is $500 to $1,000, $250 opening bid. And there's other ivory in there. There's also, I don't know if it's the next one, there's an ivory cribbage board in here that's wonderful. They have 2 cribbage boards. So if you play cribbage or you know somebody that plays cribbage, it would make a great gift. Because you don't see ivory cribbage boards very often from the 1800s, but there are 2 of them in this sale. Both of them are very nice. One of them is got a slightly higher estimate than the other, but they're very attractive. I thought I'd saved it, but maybe I didn't. Anyway, and then you have this set of a mantle garniture set. Now this is an unusual garniture set. The biggest ones are about 7 or so inches tall. But we've seen China trade garniture sets for years, and they're usually vase forms and with 3 trumpet vases and 2 jars with lids. Here they have a garniture set in the form of neoclassical urns. European urns, the kinds you would see from England and France and so forth, with the big handles on the side. Here they did them in porcelain. These are rose mandarin, obviously, and probably made around 1820 to 1830, 1835 maybe, somewhere in there. I think they're terrific. I think they're pretty terrific. And they look like they're in pretty good shape, but it's, again, rare forms. If you like rare forms, this is a good one. The smallest ones are 5 inches tall. The bigger ones are 7 inches tall. Estimate $500 to $800, $325 at the current bid. It's got 3 bidders already. People will recognize this as a rare as a rare type of porcelain because of the form. It's just so blatant. You don't see them very often. And then over to this, the big meat platter. Again, if you're entertaining, you got some people coming for Easter. It's too bad you don't have this already. Wonderful big oval meat platter. I think it's 17 inches long, 17 and a half inches long. It's a little bigger, but very nicely done. Rose mandarin, 1830s to 1840s. Beautiful color. Looks to be in quite good shape. From what I'm seeing, you want to get a condition report, of course. I always say that, but it's a nice looking platter, and it's big. It's impressive. $2,000 to $3,000, $1,000 opening bid. It may get there. It may get there because it's so big. It may get there because it's so big. or it get awfully close to the 2 to 3,000, somewhere in there. I wouldn't be surprised if it went for 15 or 1,800 plus the premium, but very, very attractive porcelain. And then here's one of the razor boxes. There you go. That's what I was talking about. You don't see these very often. So this collector ended up with two of them. Probably had the word out that he wanted some razor boxes for his house. But this is a particularly nice one with this rose mandarin scene, 1840s or so, 1830, 1840s, but beautifully done. Butterfly borders on it. Estimated at $500 to $700 with a $250 opening bid. It measures 8 inches in length. So it's a pretty good sized piece of porcelain, but it's a very unusual type of porcelain, very unusual form. It's like the Standish and the little garniture set, unusual forms, very important to pay attention to. And then you have this is they're calling it a late 18th, early 19th century teapot, lotus bud teapot. Did they call it a lotus pot? No, it's in the form of a lotus bud, and you can see the leaf decoration, obviously, around the side. You have some pods, lotus pods here, and then you have the lotus pod top over here with all the little where the flowers come out here, and then this bird finial. This is quite a teapot. When I first saw it, I thought maybe it's not China trade, maybe it's French or something, but they say it's China trade. This is a rare thing if it's China trade. That looks like Chinese. This almost looks like Kakeyamon decoration on here. I don't think it is, but it's very, very attractive. Another rare bird. The estimate is very reasonable, $300 to $500. It's got a repaired finial, and one of the petals is missing off one of the flowers, it says here. But it's again, extremely rare type. $300 to $500 seems very modest. I think it'll go over that. I think it'll probably bring 5 to 7, but we'll see. We'll see. All right, and then over to this, another one of these unusual teapots. This is a very good 18th century example. We've seen these before. This is a type that you most often see in Europe. If the fancy Asian dealers, the China trade dealers over there, Santos, and those people often get these. But it has this very nice high applique, high relief work in appliques with these petals and leaves and then enameled and so forth. Beautifully done. Looks like it's in pretty good shape. You want to check it for condition. It looks like it has aubergine decorated colored handles and spout, which is kind of unusual. Aubergine was a more popular color during the Kangxi period, but this is a nice looking pot, very attractive with the undertray. Still got its original undertray. Was sold by Linda Willauer back in the day. Not a big surprise. And they've covered up they're saying 1740 on. Okay, that makes more sense. They covered up the selling price on it, but I'm going to bet it was 3 to 5,000, maybe 4 to 6,000 back then. But it's very attractive. And then another piece of great ivory. This is quite a thing. These always do well, by the way. If you've ever wanted one of these, there's your chance to get one. This is a card holder, and it's pretty good size. It's 10 inches tall and 5 inches wide. And if you pull it in, the carving on these is always excellent. These were real premium luxury goods that were made during the China trade era. Notice the detail, the very three-dimensional carving with all the flowers and vines. Beautifully done all the way down. Then you have all the card slots going in it. This one you had visitors and so forth. They would leave their card for you. And that's the back where you put it on the wall. Anyway, it's a good one. It's estimated at $2,500 to $3,500, and that is probably a realistic expectation for these. The last one I saw come up, I think it brought $4,400. It came up at a sale, I think, in New York. But they're very desirable. They've always been desirable because they're useful and they're interesting, and they're always well carved. Okay, here's one of the cribbage boards. There it is, China trade cribbage board. Wouldn't that make a great gift if you have a cribbage player in your house? Or if you play cribbage, buy it for yourself. But this is beautifully carved, low relief carving. It's in wonderful shape. It's got these little paw feet coming down like lion's paws, holding up the table. It's got the pegs and so forth. Terrific. And it measures 9 inches in length, and is estimated at $1,000 to $1,500 with $1,000 or $500 starting bid. That's for nothing. It's a very interesting object. And then lastly, the pair of food dogs with the cricket sticks on them. Again, like candlesticks, these are the food dog cricket sticks. Now, these have been selling very reasonably in recent years, much more reasonably than the estimate. I'm not quite sure why they put such a big estimate on them. Maybe that was the consignor. So I'll be kind of surprised if they get there. They're very good ones, and the starting price is $900, which is pretty reasonable for these. But in the last couple of years, they've been sort of this form has struggled a little bit to get over about $1,200 or so. So we'll see. There may not be a reserve on them, so it doesn't make any difference. You can try to buy them anyway. But $900 is a very reasonable starting price. But the top estimate of $2,500 seems a bit on the hopeful side. But they're beautiful examples. They look to be in quite good condition. Both of the stalkers, they have some restoration to the bodies. Yeah, if these have restorations, I don't think they're going to get that. They're going to get there. In perfect shape, they might bring 12 to 1,300. But if they've been restored, they're going to bring. I suspect they'll sell for around the starting price, or maybe they'll have to cut the bid or something. I like them. I've always liked them, and there are a number of animal forms in this sale. So don't let this one scare you away. If you go down to the bottom here, there's a recumbent. Here's another one, a spotted feline. There's another candlestick in the sale. There's an elephant. There's two more elephants. Then you have these nifty animal forms, including the recumbent horses. There you go. So you have a dog, a rabbit, and two horses. Those are 19th century for the most part. What else is in here? There's some silver. I just want to miss anything. This is just sort of an overview. But anyway, there's a lot of nice things in here, as you can see. Some beautiful China trade pieces. And there's another one of those side-handled chocolate pots. Here's a cider jug. There's several cider jugs in the sale. There's several covered vegetables, pair of open salts, rose mandarin open salts, a couple of little cachepos, teapots, mugs, brush. There's a rose mandarin brush pot, and so forth. There's all kinds of stuff in here. There's more ivory up here. Got this ivory little frame and a couple of ivory figures, a couple more fans, as I mentioned, and so forth. So it's a good looking sale. If you collect China trade, check it out. They did a very good job with the photography. The descriptions are good. They're reliable people to do business with. They've been around. Eldred's has been around ever since I've been in the business. It was started by the dad back, I think, maybe in the 60s. I'm not sure when they started. I know they started before I came into the business. And the son, Josh, now runs it. He's been working there, I think, all his life. I think he started there when he was in high school. But at any rate, that's the sale. Check it out. It's on April 8th. Starting at 9:30 in the morning. You can go to their website. You can register there. You can bid there. You'll save money. You won't have to pay the transaction fees that live auctioneers charge and deal with the live auctioneers shipping hassles and all that. And you don't pay the extra 4 or 5% for the privilege of doing business with them. So go to Eldred's and register there, and you'll save yourself some money. All right. So anyway, have a great rest of your day. That's I got this out. I hope you enjoy it, and leave a comment. Tell me what you collect, if you collect anything in particular, and we'll be back in another day or so with another video. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't so far, and see you again. Bye-bye.